today I'm going to show you how to make this super cute cord set, kind of ideal for the beach as a beach cover up. This is the lovely top here, so a super cute bows at the side. This is the matching shorts to go with it, so super simple, just nice flowy at the end and a stretch waistband. They go very nicely together, and I chose this fabric here. It's a lovely bright stripe. And one thing I have to remember, because I've made the mistake before, is when you're cutting out your pattern pieces to make sure that we cut the short pieces vertically, because, well, I definitely want these stripes to be vertical, to go downwards. So yeah.
So here I am just pinning all of our pattern pieces to our fabric. So the two top pieces are both going to be cut on fold. So I've just placed them on the folded edge of fabric there and cutting them out. And we have to cut out 2 of each of those. And then for our side bows, we're going to be cutting out 8 of those straps. And then for the long frilly piece at the front, we're cutting out 2 of those. Okay, so here we have all of our pieces. We have our 2 back top pieces, our 8 straps, our 2 front pieces here, and then these are going to be one for the front that's going to sit along here, and then one for the back that's going to sit along here. Yeah, so our 2 front pieces are going to be sewn together and turned inside out, and the same with our back pieces, and then we will attach bottom section to both the front and the back at the end. Okay, so the very first step for our beach top is to do the side straps. So what I'm going to do now is just fold our strap pieces in half and iron them, and then I will sew them all, and then we will turn them inside out. Now, once we have all of our straps sewn, what we're going to do is take our safety pin and we're going to put it in about 1/2 centimeter from the top, just to make sure that we don't tear through the fabric at the side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn the safety pin around and put it through the top hole here. So just like so. Can be a little bit tricky to maneuver in the very beginning. And then basically we're going to slide this safety pin through, gathering our fabric and then pulling it over. So just like so. And once you get it through at the start, it should be very easy just to pull the fabric along. So that there is our first strap finished, and we're just going to repeat this step for all 8 straps and then just iron them across. Okay, so here we have our first 4 straps turned inside out, and we just need to do the very same for the next 4. Now the next step, once we have finished our straps, is to pin them in place. So what I'm doing now is just measuring it so that it's even either side. So from the top here, the corner of our sleeve, I've measured 1.5 inches, and that's where I've placed our first strap. And then from the bottom of the first strap, I've measured 3 inches, and that's where I've placed the second strap. So I'm going to do the very same on this side, so about 1.5 inches, and that's where I'm going to place the first strap, so just about there. And then I'm just going to pin that in place and just leaving a little bit to go over at the edge there. And we can cut the extra bit off at the end. And then after that, I'm going to measure 3 inches down. So just adjust this strap to be 3 inches down, and then I'm going to pin that in place. Now, so then I'm taking the 2 good sides of the back top and I'm placing them on top of each other and just lining it up evenly. And then I'm going to pin all the way around the outside and the neckline. And then everywhere that I've pinned, I'm going to sew. So just making sure that you're lined up at the neckline and then pinning all the way around. And it's important to have the long bits of the strap on the inside of our top here. Now here we've pinned our 2 back top pieces together on top of each other, and we have our straps on the inside and they're lined up evenly either side. And now what we're going to do is just sew everywhere that we have pinned. So from the bottom of the side here all the way up along the sleeve, and then all the way across the neckline, and then down the other side of the sleeve. And we're leaving the very bottom of our back top piece open because we're going to use this to pull the fabric through and turn it inside out so that we have the nice side of the fabric facing out. So I'm just going to start sewing everywhere that we've pinned, leaving about a centimetre seam allowance. So that's our back top piece finished. I'm just going to iron our seams open and press them just so we have a nice smooth neckline here. So now we're going to do the very same with our 2 front pieces. We're going to make sure the 2 good sides of the fabric are facing each other, and we are going to pin our straps in place. So just based off of our back top, we started with the red strap and then did the white strap. So I'm going to do the same for the front side. And I'm measuring 1.5 inches from here, and then I'm going to place our strap 1.5 inches from our sleeve end, so just here. I'm just going to pin this in place, and then 3 inches from there I'm going to pin our strap in place, so just here. So now we're doing the very same thing with our front top piece. So I've measured 1.5 inches from the edge of our sleeves, and that's where the first red strap is going, and then 3 inches from here, and that's where the next strap is going, and it's the same on the other side. So now we're just going to do the exact same thing, and we're going to place the good side of the fabric on top, and we're going to pin all the way around the same as we did with the back piece. So just line everything up, pin everything in place. Now, so we're going to do the very same as we did to the back top piece, and we're just going to sew everywhere that we've pinned all along the side and then our neckline, and then we will turn it inside out. And I'm just going to do a back stitch around each of our straps just to make sure that they're secured in place. just before you turn your piece inside out, I've just cut out a diagonal bit here at the center of our front top, and just made little slits, and that will just mean that it'll look a bit neater and the fabric will be able to stretch when we turn it inside out, and it won't be as buckled. So there we go. And now what we're going to do is connect the top piece of our front top to the back piece. And before I do that, I'm just going to iron out our seams here. Now, so our next step here is to place our front and back top on top of each other with the good sides facing each other, and then we're going to pin our very top shoulder straps together. I've ironed these out so that they are flat. Just going to pin these together here, and the same on this side so that they match up nicely. And then we are just going to sew across a couple times, just making sure we do a front and back stitch at the very start and at the end, just so that it's secure in place. So then this is the good side of our top, and I'm just going to overlock our seams that we made. So this is how it's looking so far. Now I'm just doing our overlock stitch on our strap seam. There we are so far, and now we're just going to add the bottom section to our front and back tops and the hems for our ties. So for our strap hems, I'm literally just going to fold it up once and then twice. And I want to make sure that the fold is facing the inside of the top, so this way. So you have the nice side facing outwards, and then I'm just going to pin this in place and do the very same for all of our other straps, and then just sew across. Now, so the next thing we need to do is attach the bottom section of our top to the front and back piece. So we're going to do the 5 stitch length, and that's going to create our frill, because this is slightly longer than our top piece, and we want it that way because we want to create that kind of ruched effect. So we're going to do this wide stitch and then pull our thread through to scrunch it up to give it a nice little frill effect at the bottom. So we're just doing this here at the very top, all the way along. And we have to remember, when we're doing this kind of stitch, we don't do a front and back stitch at the start, we just run it all the way through. You just want to leave a little bit of thread at the end to be able to pull it through. Now we're just going to take one piece of our thread, and we're just going to pull and ruche the fabric along, just to give that kind of frill detailing. So now I'm just going to take the front of our top piece, and I'm going to make sure that the good side is facing us. So that means like the good side of our shoulder strap and everything is facing us. And then what I'm going to do is just cut off excess thread here. Just going to place this on top like this, so that the good side is facing this way. And that way when we pin and sew it along here, it's going to come out like that. So I'm just lining it up here to measure the length of the fabric and see if I need to just adjust to make it the right length. And we also need to account for a hem that we need to do at the side, either side. Yeah, so just adjust it as you like. And then I'm going to do our hem here at the side. So we want it to, if we want the good side to be this way, we need to fold it in here. So I'm going to fold it in about 1/2 centimeter once, and then 1/2 centimeter again, and then just pin this in place. So now we're just going to sew all the way along there. And just remember to change back to the normal stitch. Yeah, so that's our side hem finished, and we're going to do the very same to the other end. And then we're rolling it up 1/2 centimeter first, and then another 1/2 centimeter. Yeah, so that's our other hem finished. And now we're going to attach this section onto our front top piece. Once again, we're going to make sure the good side is facing us, and then the good side of our fabric piece is facing down onto the good side there. Now, so I'm just flipping this over here to have an idea of how it will look. We're just going to sew it from all the way along, back stitch at the start and at the very end. Now, so that is the front top piece done there. We're going to do the very same to the back. Now, so I'm just sewing all the way along here at the top, about 1/2 centimetre seam allowance, and we have our 5 stitch width. Now, just want to make sure that it lines up nicely, and then we just need to do our hem at the edges. So I'm just going to fold it in 1/2 centimetre here, 1/2 centimetre again. Pin that in place. Now, so we're going to sew all the way along here at the edge, changing our stitch width back to 2.5. That's perfect. So that's our side hem there done, and we're going to do the very same for this side. So that is the one pinned, and we're just going to sew all the way along. I'm just sewing all the way across there. So that is our back bottom half attached, and we just need to hem the bottom here of the front and the back, and then we're finished. Now, the very last thing we're going to do is hem the bottom section of our top. So what I'm going to do now is flip the top to the bad side, facing us, and then I'm going to roll our fabric up 1/2 centimetre and press, and then another 1/2 centimetre up, and then we're just going to pin all the way along for the front and the back. Okay, so now that we have the bottom section of our top all hemmed and pinned, we're just going to sew all along, just normal straight stitch. Just remembering to do a front and back stitch at the very beginning. Now, so this is our lovely beach top all finished, and we're just going to make our cute little bows at the side, and that's the back all finished.
And now we're going to get started on our matching shorts. So the same lovely stripy fabric. And I'm just doing the very same and sellotaping all of our pattern pages together and cutting out the size small. And then I'm just cutting out the front and back short pieces twice.
So right here we have the 2 back pieces of our poppy shorts, and what I'm going to do now is just get the 2 good sides of our fabric and place them on top of each other. Just line them up nice and evenly, and then I'm going to pin from the top here all the way along
to the end of the inner crotch.
So just make sure they're lined up nice and evenly, and then I'm going to pin all the way down here, and then just sew all the way from top to bottom here. So just pinning and then sewing. And we are leaving this section here open. And a 1 centimetre seam allowance is normal. Now I'm just going to do the very same thing now to our 2 front short pieces. This is how it looks like from
the front.
And I'm going to do the very same to our 2 front pieces. So I'm just going to make sure that the 2 good sides of fabric are facing each other, like so. And then I'm going to pin from here to here. Yeah. So we're just going to do the very same here and sew along exactly where we've pinned. Now, so what I'm going to do now with both seams is I'm going to press them open with my iron just to make sure that there's a nice crisp finish, and then I'm going to overlock both seams. So I'm just going to press this open with my iron, so the same for the front and back, and then I'll overlock these, and then we will sew our front and back pieces together and add our waistband. Now, so the very next thing we're going to do is place our front and back pieces on top of each other with the good side facing each other and the bad sides on the outside. Then what we're going to do is line them up, and we're going to pin them in place along the side, either side, and in the middle. So we'll just start here at the very side. So we just want to make sure that they're lined up evenly and pin all the way down, and then as normal we will sew everywhere that we've pinned. This is a really super easy beginner piece and still looks very good on nice comfy pair of summer shorts. And you can totally add pockets if you'd like. I just prefer them to be less bulky, so I don't like to add pockets, just in terms of the way that they look when they're on you. When you have pockets, they can just look a little bit bulky at the sides. So just for this pair, I'm not going to do any pockets. That's one side, and we're going to do the very same to this side. And then we're going to take the middle section of our shorts, and we're going to line up our two seams here from the front and back to make sure that they're perfectly even. Just line them up, and then we're going to pin these in place so that they are going to match nicely. Now, so we're just going to pin everywhere that, or we're just going to sew everywhere that we have pinned. Now I'm just going to iron open our seams either side, and then I'll just overlock them, and then we will start on our waistband. So that is all of our seams overlocked, and what we're going to do now is our waistband. Okay, so for our waistband, you can basically measure your own elastic yourself in terms of how tight or loose you'd like it to be. My elastic is about 26 inches for the waist, and that's probably a size small, and that just allows for as well for about centimetre seam allowance as well, because we'll have to sew this together here. So the very next step is then you have turn your shorts inside out, and then what you want to do is take your elastic and fold over the top of your shorts, and you want to make sure that there's enough room for the elastic to be able to fit through the waistband. So what I'm going to do is just fold it over, so measuring the width of the waistband, and then 1 centimetre extra to allow for seam allowance here at the bottom. So I'm just going to pull it down that little bit more. So about 1 centimetre seam allowance all the way around, and then the width of our waistband. Oh, the width of your elastic. This elastic is quite thick. Your elastic might be shorter, so you can just measure it to suit your type of elastic. So yeah, just 1 centimetre up for seam allowance, and then over your waistband. And I'm just going to pin this in place and then use this as a measure for the whole waistband. And at the very end, we will slide our elastic through, but we'll just pin our waistband in place first. And then, since this is a stripy fabric, you're going to want to make sure that your waistband lines up nicely and that the stripes are in line with each other. So now we have our whole waistband pinned in place with enough width to fit our elastic through. So what I'm going to do now is just sew exactly where we've pinned, leaving a gap so that we can later add our elastic through. So we just want the gap to be wide enough to be able to feed through this elastic, and we'll just attach a pin to this and feed it through the shorts at the end. But we'll just sew everything in place for the minute, and we've made our waistband wide enough to fit our elastic through. So yeah, with enough room for seam allowance. And we've also lined up our waistband so that all of our stripes are in line, and the fabric fits nicely. So I'm just going to sew everything here in place, leaving a small gap for our elastic. Okay, so I've just left this little section of our waistband open for us to add in our elastic. So I've just attached a safety pin to the top of our elastic here, and what I'm going to do now is just funnel it through our waistband and drag it all the way around. So then, once we feed it out of that little gap that we made, we need to sew our two pieces of elastic together here. So I'm going to sew them like this so that they'll be perfectly even when we pull it all the way through. So I'm literally just going to place our elastic pieces like this, and I'm going to do a couple of back stitches just to make sure it's nice and secure. Then I'm just going to make sure our elastic is spread nice and evenly across the waistband, and then we will sew over that little gap that we made. You just want to make sure that our waistband is nice and straight inside. So now I'm just going to sew closed this little gap that we made for our elastic. Now, so that is the lovely waistband of our shorts all finished. So they turned out very nice, front and the back there. And the very last thing is we're going to do is just hem the bottom of our shorts. So depending on how short or long you want them, you can kind of adjust your hem length. I'm still going to do just about a centimetre hem, so I'm just going to turn them inside out and then roll them up and then up twice. So just like so. And same thing again with our waistband, we just want to make sure that our stripes line up nice and evenly, and then I'm going to pin all the way along. And then the very same for this side, once and then twice. Now, so our shorts are now all pinned, ready to be hemmed, so I'm just going to sew exactly where we have pinned so far. Sew all the way around. That's one side of our shorts hemmed lovely and neatly. We're going to do the very same to this side now. Now, so here we have both legs hemmed and our shorts are completely finished. So I think they turned out gorgeous. I love the stripe and I think they're super pretty. Perfect pair of summer shorts. Now, so here we have our lovely beach day set all finished. We have our cute little top here with the sweet bows here at the side and our matching shorts to go with it. So yeah, it's quite a simple tutorial, so I hope you found it easy enough to follow along with. And yeah, let me know how you got on in the comments. And as usual, please tag the @MaidByeMe Instagram if you have any pictures of your pieces. I'd absolutely love to see them. And yeah, hopefully see you guys very soon.